Wisdom, wisdom, that's the test. Which rival wisdom team is best? Quote definitions and synergies defined by Claude AI, coordinated by Grandpa Lou Valier. Take care and enjoy.
Team 46. Think deeply. Quote definitions, biographical context, and synergy analysis to replace hate with motivational education to guidealife.com. Quote 46.1. The thought is a deed. Of all deeds, she fertilizes the world most. Émile Zola, 1840 to 1902. Quote definition. Thought is not merely the precursor to action, but is itself a form of action. A deed in its own right that changes what is possible, what is perceived, and what the world contains. And among all deeds, the thought is the most fertile. It generates more subsequent actions, more subsequent change, more subsequent possibility than any single physical act. The seed deed of thought fertilizes everything that grows from it. Quote application. The mission's fundamental work is the work of thought, introducing the ideas, the principles, the wisdom that fertilize new possibilities in the minds of those who encounter them. Zola's principle validates the apparently quiet, apparently indirect work of wisdom education as genuine deed of the most fertile kind. The thought planted in a receptive mind is already changing the world before any subsequent visible action confirms it. Émile Zola appears in Team 43 as well, where his observation about buried truth, growing underground, anchored the honesty layer. Born in 1840 in Paris and becoming the leading figure of French literary naturalism, Zola was simultaneously one of the most prolific novelists of his era and one of the most consequential public intellectuals. His Jacques letter about the Dreyfus case demonstrated exactly his principle. The thought he committed to print fertilized the entire subsequent movement that eventually exonerated Dreyfus. He understood from direct experience that the written thought was not merely the record of an action, but a deed in itself, one whose fertile consequences extended far beyond the moment of its production. His novels, Germinal, Nana, L'Assommoir, were intended as social deeds whose fertility would generate changes that went beyond their pages, and they did. This quote specifically encourages individuals to 1. Take the work of deep thinking seriously as genuine deed, not the preparation for action, but a form of action whose fertility exceeds most physical acts in the range of its subsequent consequences. 2. Invest in the quality of thought as the primary investment in the quality of everything the thought subsequently generates. Better thought seeds better action, better community, better world. 3. Apply Zola's fertilizing principle to the mission. Every wisdom idea carefully developed, every principle clearly articulated, every human truth honestly expressed is a thought deed that fertilizes the world more than most visible actions.
Quote 46.2. I am prepared for the worst, but hope for the best. Benjamin Disraeli 1804 to 1881. Quote definition. Genuine hope and genuine preparation for difficulty are not opposites but complementary disciplines. The complete attitude of the person who thinks deeply about what is actually likely. The best outcome is genuinely hoped for. The worst is genuinely prepared for. Neither hope nor preparation is sacrificed to the other. The person who hopes without preparing is naive. The person who prepares without hoping is defeatist. The person who does both is realistic and resilient. Quote application. Deep thinking about the mission's work requires exactly Disraeli's paired discipline. Genuine hope that the work of replacing hate with wisdom will produce genuine transformation, and genuine preparation for the resistance, the slow progress, the setbacks, and the partial failures that the work will also produce. Neither the naive optimism that ignores the worst nor the defensive pessimism that abandons the best, but the complete realistic stance that holds both simultaneously. Benjamin Disraeli appears in Teams 11, 37, 40, 44, and 45 as well. His range of observation is among the broadest in the collection. Born in 1804 in London and serving twice as Prime Minister, Disraeli navigated the full spectrum of political fortune, spectacular rises and crushing defeats, with a combination of genuine hope and thorough preparation that made him one of the most resilient figures in Victorian political life. His observation about preparation and hope reflects the complete attitude he had developed through repeated experience of both the worst and the best in high-stakes political contexts. Neither the naivety that left him unprepared for the worst nor the defeatism that abandoned the hope for the best, but the paired discipline that allowed him to continue effectively in the face of whatever actually arrived. This quote specifically encourages individuals to 1. Practice both disciplines simultaneously, genuine hope for the best outcome and genuine preparation for the worst, as the complete realistic attitude that deep thinking produces. 2. Resist the temptation to sacrifice one for the other. Hope without preparation is naive, preparation without hope is defeatist, and the full effectiveness of the mission requires both. 3. Apply Disraeli's paired standard to every significant endeavor. Think deeply enough about what is genuinely likely to prepare for the worst honestly, and maintain the genuine hope for the best that gives the preparation its purpose.
Quote 46.3. Republics end through luxury. Monarchies through poverty. Charles II Baron de Montesquieu, 1689 to 1755. Quote definition. The distinctive vulnerabilities of different systems of governance reflect their distinctive virtues. Republics, which depend on civic engagement and shared sacrifice, are destroyed when prosperity produces the comfortable disengagement that luxury makes possible. Monarchies, which depend on the loyalty of subjects who expect basic provision, are destroyed when poverty produces the desperation that makes rebellion rational. Each system carries within it the seed of its own particular failure. Quote application. Deep thinking about social change requires this kind of systemic analysis, understanding what specific vulnerabilities attend the specific virtues of any arrangement. For democracy's survival, the luxury that produces comfortable disengagement from civic responsibility is the specific threat. For the mission's communities, the complacency of those comfortable enough to disengage from the work of wisdom and kindness is the specific danger. Think systemically about what specifically threatens what you're trying to build. Charles Louis II, Baron de Montesquieu, appears in Team 28 as well, where his definition of liberty as the right of doing whatever the laws permit anchored the flourishing layer. Born in 1689 near Bordeaux and producing the spirit of the laws in 1748, the comparative political analysis that directly influenced the American Constitution's separation of powers, Montesquieu was one of the deepest systemic thinkers in the history of political philosophy. His observation about republics and luxury versus monarchies and poverty reflects his method, understanding political systems by analyzing the specific conditions under which they thrive and the specific conditions under which they fail, rather than applying a single standard to all arrangements. He thought systemically, analytically, and historically, and his conclusions were correspondingly precise. This quote specifically encourages individuals to 1. Think systemically about what specifically threatens what you are working to build. Not generic threats, but the particular vulnerabilities that attend the particular strengths of the specific arrangement. 2. Apply Montesquieu's democratic diagnosis directly. The luxury of comfortable disengagement from civic responsibility is the republic's specific threat, and democratic wisdom requires active attention to it. 3. Use this as the deep thinking prompt for the mission. What are the specific vulnerabilities of genuine wisdom community? The particular ways in which its particular strengths carry their particular risks.
Quote 46.4. A friend is one who knows you and loves you just the same. Elbert Hubbard, 1856 to 1915. Quote definition. Genuine friendship is distinguished from its many substitutes by the combination of genuine knowledge and unconditional acceptance. Not the love that exists because the full person is unknown, but the love that persists after the full person, including their failures, contradictions, and genuine flaws, is genuinely known. The just the same is the crucial qualifier. Known fully, loved anyway. Quote application. The community the mission builds is friendship in Hubbard's complete sense. Genuine human connection that survives genuine knowledge of the other. The love that only exists in the absence of full knowledge is not what the mission is building. It is building the kind of genuine community where people are genuinely known and genuinely valued, not despite the knowing but through it. This is also the vision of what replacing hatred means. Knowing the full humanity of the other, and finding that the knowing produces love rather than contempt. Elbert Hubbard was born in 1856 in Bloomington, Illinois, worked as a soap salesman before founding the Roycroft Artisan Community in East Aurora, New York, one of the most significant American arts and crafts movement enterprises, and became a prolific essayist, publisher, and philosopher of practical wisdom, whose Little Journey's biographical essays and the Roycroft Dictionary were widely read in the early 20th century. He died on the RMS Lusitania in 1915 when it was torpedoed by a German U-boat, reportedly refusing a lifeboat to stay with his wife. His observation about friendship's complete definition comes from a man who had built a community explicitly organized around the principle he articulated. The Roycroft community was founded on the idea that genuine human connection required genuine knowledge of the whole person, not just the presentable parts. This quote specifically encourages individuals to 1. Pursue the complete friendship Hubbard describes, knowing genuinely and loving just the same, rather than the partial relationship that protects itself from full knowledge because full knowledge might threaten the love. 2. Apply this as the vision of what replacing hatred ultimately means. The knowing that produces love rather than contempt is the complete replacement of the ignorance that hatred requires. 3. Build communities on Hubbard's standard. Not the association of people who do not yet know each other's full humanity, but the genuine friendship of those who do, and who find consistently that the knowing produces love just the same.
Quote 46.5. Seek not greatness, but seek truth, and you will find both. Horace Mann, 1796 to 1859. Quote definition. The direct pursuit of greatness, fame, achievement, recognition, produces neither greatness nor the truth that genuine greatness reflects. The direct pursuit of truth, honest inquiry, genuine understanding, the honest confrontation with what is actually the case, produces genuine insight that turns out to be the very thing from which genuine greatness, when it comes, is made. Seek truth, find both. Quote application. The mission of making America wiser and kinder must seek truth, genuine truth about what hatred costs, what wisdom produces, what communities need, what human dignity requires, rather than greatness, recognition, or influence. Horace Mann's principle is the standing redirect, when the temptation arises to pursue the appearance of impact over its substance. Seek truth instead. The greatness that comes with genuine truth will arrive without being pursued, because it is made of the same material. Horace Mann was born in 1796 in Franklin, Massachusetts, largely self-educated in his early years due to the poverty of his farming family, educated himself to enter Brown University at 20, and became the most important figure in the history of American public education. The secretary of the Massachusetts Board of Education, who transformed the state school system in the 1830s and 1840s and established a model for public education that the rest of the nation eventually adopted. He left Massachusetts to serve as president of Antioch College in Ohio, where he championed coeducation and the admission of students regardless of race. His final address to Antioch's graduating class ended with the words, "Be ashamed to die until you have won some victory for humanity." His observation about seeking truth rather than greatness reflects the educational philosophy he had spent his career practicing. The genuine learning that transforms people comes from honest inquiry, not from the pursuit of the impressive outcomes that honest inquiry eventually produces. This quote specifically encourages individuals to 1. Orient effort toward genuine truth, honest inquiry, genuine understanding, rather than toward the appearance of greatness that truth sometimes produces as its eventual byproduct. 2. Apply Mann's redirect to the mission's temptations. When the choice is between the approach that appears impressive and the approach that is genuinely true, choose truth. The greatness will follow or it won't, but the truth is worth having either way. 3. Use this principle as the standing self-check. Is this being done for truth or for greatness? If the latter, redirect toward the former, because the former produces both, while the latter often produces neither.
Quote 46.6. Don't talk about what you have done or what you are going to do. Thomas Jefferson, 1743 to 1826. Quote definition. Talk about past achievement and future intention is the substitution of narrative for actual doing. It occupies the space and the social currency that actual doing would otherwise fill, but without the substance. Person who talks about what they have done is spending social capital from a past that is finished. The person who talks about what they are going to do is spending credit from a future that has not yet arrived. Both are less honest and less useful than simply doing what deserves to be done. Quote application. Deep thinking produces action, not narration. The mission that talks about past achievements and future plans more than it does current work is substituting the narrative of impact for the substance of it. Jefferson's principle is the standing redirect from the comfortable performance of doing to the less comfortable actual doing that the performance was meant to represent. Think deeply, act from the thinking, let the actions speak. Thomas Jefferson was born in 1743 at Shadwell, Virginia, the son of a prosperous planter, educated at the College of William and Mary, and became the principal author of the Declaration of Independence, the third President of the United States, founder of the University of Virginia, and one of the most consequential American thinkers of any era. He held enslaved people throughout his life, including, with near certainty, Sally Hemings and their children, a profound contradiction that the historical record requires honest acknowledgement alongside the genuine greatness of his intellectual contributions. His instruction not to talk about what you have done or will do reflects his own characteristically action-oriented philosophy. The declarations and the architectures and the institutions spoke for themselves, and the person who trusted the deeds to make their own case rarely needed to supplement them with narration. This quote specifically encourages individuals to 1. Redirect the energy spent narrating past achievements and future plans into the present doing that the narration was meant to represent, because the actual deed speaks more credibly than any account of it. 2. Apply Jefferson's standard as the self-check on mission communication. Are we talking about what we've done and what we'll do, or are we doing what we think and acting from the deep thinking that deserves to be acted on? 3. Trust the work to speak, let the community transform, the wisdom genuinely shared, the human connection actually built, do the talking that narration of those things can only approximate.
Quote 46.7. Hope is a good breakfast, but it is a bad supper. Francis Bacon 1561–1626. Quote definition. Hope is the right fuel for beginning, the morning optimism that starts the day's effort with the expectation of good outcomes. But hope alone, unaccompanied by the work and results that the day's effort should have produced, is a thin and unsatisfying evening meal. The person who ends the day still running only on hope, with no actual accomplishment to show for the hours between, has mistaken the breakfast fuel for the supper substance. Quote application. Deep thinking requires both the hope of Disraeli's paired discipline and the honest Baconian accounting at day's end. Has the hope been turned into substance through the work it was meant to fuel? Hope as breakfast. Absolutely, generously, every morning. Hope as supper, only if the day's work has produced what the morning's hope intended. The mission runs on both, and it honestly distinguishes between them. Francis Bacon appears in Teams 12, 17, 19, 26, and 42 as well. His principles anchor multiple frameworks across the collection. Born in 1561 in London, and serving as Lord Chancellor before conviction for bribery ended his public career, Bacon spent the remainder of his life writing the philosophical and scientific works that established the empirical method as the foundation of genuine knowledge. His observation about hope as breakfast and bad supper reflects the empiricist's honest accounting. Begin with the hope that motivates genuine effort, but account at day's end for whether the effort produced its intended results. Hope without the work that converts it into substance is the breakfast that never became the supper it was meant to produce. And the honest thinker accounts for the difference between the two with the same precision Bacon brought to natural philosophy. This quote specifically encourages individuals to 1. Begin each day and each effort with the hope that fuels genuine work. The breakfast of good optimism is the right starting condition for everything that follows. 2. Account honestly at day's end for whether the hope produced the substance it was meant to generate, and distinguish clearly between hope genuinely converted into results and hope still waiting for the work that will produce them. 3. Apply Bacon's honest accounting to the mission. Hope for genuine transformation is the right breakfast. The honest evening accounting of whether today's work moved the transformation forward is the supper that makes tomorrow's breakfast credible.
Quote 46.8.
Happiness is a thing to be practiced like the violin. John Lubbock 1834–1913. Quote definition. Happiness is not a passive state that arrives when conditions are favorable. It is an active practice, a skill developed through deliberate repeated exercise, like the musical instrument that produces beautiful sound only after the sustained practice that develops the capacity for it. The person who waits for happiness to arrive has misunderstood its nature. The person who practices it daily is developing the capacity that eventually produces what the waiting never could. Quote application. Deep thinking about genuine human flourishing arrives at Lubbock's practical conclusion. Happiness, like wisdom, is developed through practice rather than received through condition. The mission of making America wiser and kinder is simultaneously a project for developing the practices of both wisdom and happiness as learned skills that communities can develop together through sustained deliberate engagement with what genuine human flourishing requires. Sir John Lubbock, later Baron Avebury, was born in 1834 in London, the son of a banker and astronomer, and became through extraordinary range of interest and remarkable energy one of the most productive figures of Victorian England. A banker who ran the family bank while simultaneously serving as a Member of Parliament for 20 years, conducting significant archaeological and entomological research, writing popular science books that were among the most widely read of the era, and producing the social and philosophical observations collected in The Pleasures of Life and the Use of Life that made him one of the most quoted English writers of the late 19th century. He is also responsible for bank holidays in England. His Bank Holidays Act of 1871 gave workers their first legally guaranteed days off. His observation about happiness as practice rather than condition comes from a man who had made happiness a deliberate discipline throughout an extraordinarily full and productive life. This quote specifically encourages individuals to 1. Practice happiness deliberately and daily, as the skill development that produces genuine happiness over time rather than the passive waiting for conditions that justify it. 2. Apply Lubbock's violin analogy precisely. No one expects to play the violin beautifully without practice, and expecting happiness to arrive without the practice of its constituent skills is the same category error. 3. Use this principle as the closing standard for deep thinking's ultimate purpose. The wisdom education this mission provides is not just intellectual development but the development of the happiness practice capacities that genuine wisdom ultimately serves.
How they work together as a unified philosophy to replace hate with motivational education to guidealife.com. The Think Deeply framework. Foundation layer. Thought as deed and prepared hope. Quotes 1, 2. Zola established that thought itself is the most fertile deed available, the idea that fertilizes everything that grows from it, making deep thinking the primary available form of world-changing action. Disraeli provide the complete attitude that genuine deep thinking produces, prepared for the worst, hoping for the best, the paired discipline that avoids both naive optimism and defensive defeatism. Together, the power and the posture of deep thinking. Zola establishes what deep thinking produces, the most fertile deed available, the thought that seeds everything that follows. Disraeli establishes the attitude it requires, the complete realistic stance that holds hope and preparation simultaneously, neither sacrificing one to the other. Think deeply enough to fertilize the world. Hold that thinking in the paired discipline of genuine hope and genuine preparation. Analysis layer, systemic vulnerability, and known and loved friendship. Quotes 3, 4. Montesquieu applied deep systemic thinking to the specific vulnerabilities that attend specific arrangements, republics through luxury, monarchies through poverty, providing the analytical framework for understanding what specifically threatens what is being built. Hubbard ground the systemic analysis in genuine human relationship, the friend who knows fully and loves just the same, ensuring that deep thinking about systems never loses sight of the genuine individual human connection it ultimately serves. Together, the analytical and the human dimensions of deep thinking. Montesquieu's systemic analysis is the intellectual rigor, thinking precisely about what specifically threatens what is specifically valuable. Hubbard's complete friendship is the human center, the genuine knowing and loving just the same that all the systemic thinking ultimately serves. Think precisely about systems, never lose the human being at the center. Truth layer, seek truth, find both, and let deeds speak. Quotes 5, 6. Man established that deep thinking is oriented toward truth rather than greatness, and that truth-seeking produces both, while greatness-seeking often produces neither.
Jefferson, provide the behavioral expression of that truth orientation. Don't talk about what you have done or will do, just do it, ensuring that deep thinking is expressed in action rather than narration of action. Together, the direction and the expression of truth-oriented deep thinking. Man's seek truth find both sets the orientation, honest inquiry rather than impressive outcome as the aim. Jefferson's do rather than narrate sets the expression. The deep thinking that produces genuine truth expresses itself in genuine action rather than in the narration of action that substitutes for its substance. Think toward truth. Express that thinking in deed rather than in talk about deed. Practice layer. Hope as breakfast not supper and happiness as violin. Quotes 7-8. Bacon. Apply honest Baconian accounting to hope, the right fuel for beginning, but a poor substitute for the substance of accomplished work, ensuring that deep thinking includes honest evaluation of whether hope has been converted into actual results. Lubbock. Close the framework with the ultimate practical insight about deep thinking's purpose. Happiness is a practice like the violin, making the development of genuine happiness a deliberate daily discipline rather than a passive condition awaiting favorable circumstance. Together, the honest accounting and the ultimate purpose of deep thinking. Bacon's breakfast not supper ensures that hope is honestly evaluated, used as the morning fuel it genuinely is, not confused with the evening substance it can never substitute for. Lubbock's violin practice ensures that deep thinking is ultimately directed toward the happiness that is its deepest purpose, developed through daily practice, not awaited through favorable circumstance. Account honestly for whether hope is being converted. Practice happiness as the violin it genuinely is.
Free Easy Extra Advantage Math, Spelling and Reading Workbooks you can download for free at stop2think.com or buy at educationstopshate.com. Free Easy Math Wisdom Workbooks with octo repetition to grow math self-confidence. You'll get plenty of repetitive practice of age ranges and averages of our 52 teams of 8 quote authors. Free Easy Alpha Cipher-coded puzzles teach letters, numbers, and phrases using antique wisdoms that encourage and educate. Can you decode this cipher quote of encouragement using either our Learning to Spell or just for fun instructions? And since time is money, practice reading faster with 52 teams of antique rival wisdoms that have passed the test of time to encourage, educate, and entertain generations for centuries. We offer printed versions and timed videos with background music. Sign up for free weekly emails of 52 teams of antique rival wisdom workbooks with easy math, spelling, and reading practice. And, if you'd like to get paid for sharing our wearable wisdoms, keep this in mind. Everyone I know wears a shirt, and most of us change them daily, so change your shirt and change the world. Social equalities are blatantly subliminal antique positive wisdoms repetitively shared without saying a word. This applies to all our wearable shareable wisdoms. Like pretty witty baby onesies and baby tees that you and others will see and read multiple times a day. The same is true with pretty witty kids, but they'll also share these wisdoms with anyone that can read at daycare or school. Youthful truths let your kids gain confidence sharing antique wisdoms with their friends. Imagine them sharing words of wisdom with classmates and teachers. I think, therefore I think tees I wear is a super easy way to share words of wisdom that have passed the test of time. Our social equalities help make us all wiser and kinder with blatantly subliminal messages promoting a more fair and equal opportunity society for all. And don't forget our giftwisdoms.com for birthdays and holidays that makes it easy to share the wisdom with clothing, coffee mugs, and magnets. So do the future a favor by encouraging, educating, and entertaining with words of wisdom that have passed the test of time to make us all wiser and kinder. With wearable wisdoms to fit babies, kids, and adults. You can clothe a whole family, city, or state. Join the 52 of 8 today.